Ferrari and team principal Frederic Vasseur are not having a good time in Formula One. Unfortunately, it could not really be otherwise, since after 17 years without a title in Maranello, the atmosphere is already tense, if not even toxic. Let alone that, after all the hopes at the start of the 2025 Formula One season, after 10 races, the red team is largely out of the running. This is the harsh reality that must be accepted, even though it really hurts. Whoever makes mistakes pays. 3 words that count in anyone's life, and it works the same way in the highest motorsport category. Actually, in Formula One it is even worse, since results matter more than anything else. Frederic Vasseur's mandate has failed so far. It is impossible to claim otherwise. The first year does not count, since the car was developed under the Mattia Binotto regime, and no blame could be attributed to the Frenchman. Last season started off okay, but then from the Spanish Grand Prix round at the Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona onwards, the horror unfolded with the disastrous floor that derailed the Maranello team for 6 races. Fortunately, the Monza correction came and fixed things, although by then it was just too late to aim for both titles. And if the Constructors' Championship was decided at the last race, it was not thanks to the red team, but rather to McLaren's endless waste. So here we are in 2025, the last championship of the wing car era, which ends after just 4 seasons. Ferrari was supposed to smash the world. Frederic Vasseur and the drivers spoke clearly, convinced that fighting for both championships was possible. Instead, no, the coveted goal is unattainable. Why? Simple. The Maranello team got the car wrong, an unforgivable mistake that irreparably compromised the Formula One season. After briefly summarizing the facts, let's move on to the analysis of the French manager, who literally exploded at the Friday Canadian press conference. He got furious, unleashing his anger on part of the Italian media that, according to him, never misses a chance to criticize. First of all, a clarification. The press, as such, has every right to express their thoughts and criticize when necessary. After briefly summarizing the facts, let's move on to the analysis of the French manager, who literally exploded at the Friday Canadian press conference. He got furious, unleashing his anger on part of the Italian media that, according to him, never misses a chance to criticize. First of all, a clarification. The press, as such, has every right to express their thoughts and criticize when necessary. And considering the situation Ferrari has trapped itself in, it is pretty hard not to do so. Frederic Vasseur isn't upset so much by the criticisms of himself, but rather those aimed at the rest of the team. He talks about a lack of respect towards those who work and their families. He cannot understand why something like that can happen, because throwing dirt on the team makes no sense to him. Then, he claims they do it because otherwise they would not exist. According to the Frenchman, this kind of attitude is damaging the team, because when you are fighting for the championship, every detail makes a difference. Finally, he concludes by saying that in this way, you can't win a world title. Certainly not with this kind of journalists around the team who only speak badly about it. Analyzing Frederic Vasseur's rant, one reflection comes to mind. When a manager in any sport goes against the press, it is never a good sign. With all due respect to the various team members, it must be said that the work done by the Italian side is absolutely insufficient. It almost seems like the press targets those who did everything well and only made a small mistake, when unfortunately it is exactly the opposite. Ferrari made big mistakes in the 2025 Formula One project and, so far, after 10 races, has not managed to improve the car. The facts tell this story. The scolding of the press might be justified. But maybe Frederic Vasseur should be angrier with himself and his work group, who have not been up to the task, an attitude more useful to the cause because winning or losing in Formula One never depends on the press. It was not the first time that Fred Vasseur clashed with the media. Already after the first disappointing Grand Prix, the Ferrari team principal had blamed journalists for raising expectations too high regarding the team's 2025 project and driver lineup. Now, on the eve of the Canadian GP, he was once again pointing the finger at the media, this time suggesting they were the root of Ferrari's problems. But the situation needed to be examined step by step. Fred Vasseur had previously defended himself by saying that Ferrari hadn't even unveiled the car in Maranello when the media had already started generating hype, implying that the buzz was not the team's responsibility. In doing so, however, he appeared to forget the triumphalist event held in central Milan before the season had even started, where the new car and the arrival of Lewis Hamilton were celebrated with considerable fanfare. That event had clearly been a marketing move, one from which Ferrari had directly benefited, riding the wave of media excitement. The hype had fueled fan enthusiasm both publicly and financially. It seemed that what now infuriated Fred Vasseur was the fact that Ferrari had helped create the very media hype that was now turning against them. During the Canadian Grand Prix weekend, the team principal appeared to be in a rage. While his instinct to protect internal team resources might have been understandable, his swipe at the press raised eyebrows. He reportedly stated that, "With this kind of journalists around us, we cannot win the world championship." It was a bold claim, though one that lost substance in the context of Formula One, a sport where car performance accounts for over 90% of the final results. The development of the SF25, now labeled a wreck, had actually begun in the second half of 2024, at a time when media sentiment was entirely different. With Ferrari fighting for the title until the final race, the Italian press had widely praised the Maranello squad. The arrival of engineers like Loic Serra and Jerome D'Ambrosio, as well as the most decorated driver on the grid, had been interpreted and reported as signs of a strengthening team. It would have been paradoxical if such a positive climate had negatively affected the 2025 car's development. If that had indeed happened, it would have suggested that the team built by Fred Vasseur was incapable of managing pressure, even the positive kind. Ultimately, the Ferrari team principal's latest outbursts once again came across as misplaced, perceived as attempts to mislead fans who had supported Ferrari for years and who deserved honesty and respect. Last winter, expectations for Ferrari were rightly very high. Tifosi believed that 2025 could truly be the right year, and yet it hasn't turned out that way, at least not so far. It's been nearly 2 decades since the last world title for the Italian side. In that time, Formula One fans have witnessed several dominant eras, but Ferrari has never been the undisputed protagonist. With Lewis Hamilton's arrival, many thought things would change, but they haven't. Frederic Vasseur's first real Ferrari, meaning a team composed of members he personally selected, has failed. That's undeniable. The only one who continues to uphold the prancing horse's banner for 7 years now is Charles Leclerc. His relentless drive to become a champion in red is truly admirable, but it sometimes leads him to make mistakes. One example, or rather, the latest one, is the crash during Free Practice 1 at the Canadian Grand Prix. The impact with the barriers came from a basic mistake for a driver of his caliber, and it had more negative consequences than expected, as the mechanics were unable to return the car to the track for FP2. A frankly unnecessary error, which might compromise the outcome of the Montreal weekend. Yet, one question arises spontaneously. Are the Tifosi willing to endure moments like this in exchange for others that are wildly exciting, like the podiums in Monaco and Barcelona? Let's be clear. Charles Leclerc is far from perfect, but then again, so is every other driver. However, what makes him unique is his ability to stir emotion, to convey his unconditional love for Ferrari. And if what the team delivers is yet another tricky car like the SF25, a few thrilling moments are the most we can ask of him. The price to pay? Seeing him make mistakes now and then, and learning to accept it.